It's been said in many spiritual traditions that the human being is born with an open connection to our soul, with remembrances from our deep past. Over time, however, we lose that direct connection through societal and parental programming and expectations. We slowly begin to conform, our dreams begin to close down, and we no longer remember where we go at night when the spirit leaves the body to refresh itself, gain knowledge, and connect with other souls. Jim Self has had the unique benefit of never shutting down. Every night he goes to his soul's home place and meets with beings and ascended masters who have shown him how life in the cosmos works, including what this great shift means in very real terms. This is a fascinating story. You've had an interesting path because on one hand, you're a very intelligent, grounded, practical person that started a life in politics at a very young age.
Yes.
Pretty amazing.
Yes, it was.
City Council,
San Jose,
at 26.
Right.
So let's talk about Dreamtime and who you really are.
Well, you know, one of the things that happens when people come into a body, born into a body, you know everything. That soft spot on the top of your head, that's the connection to the Creator. You're still connected. And then you begin to listen to mom, dad, preacher, minister, teacher, and you say, okay, I'm the little one, they're the big ones, and I'm going to do what they say. And you begin to shut that down. Also, people are very connected. They're clairvoyant, they're clairsentient, they're clairaudient. They have a very full connection to themselves and to the world around them. And then we shut that down to do what the big ones say to do. And in a way, I never shut that down. And it's an awkward place because people listening are very sensitive. You know, one of the things that happens to the people who don't shut that down is they begin to be hiders in life. They're very sensitive to the energy and to the feelings, the emotions of other people. And so that gets to be very challenging for a lot of people. For me, it didn't seem to affect me as much, and the path I'm on just allowed me to continue to walk through that. And then things like City Council in San Jose and building corporations and the many other things that I've been able to do, they were just learning points along the way to begin to understand this space that I get to play in now.
And that's really what life is.
Yes.
If we all understood it that way, it's all just an experiment, a playground, whatever you want to call it.
Very much.
So you've always known that. So you approached each of these things with the type of boldness the average individual might have lost because of all the other voices in their heads that suppress the boldness that we are innately.
Well, I would like to say yes, but I have had my own stuff. You know, in life, everybody's got their stuff. And so to a great extent, see, you're always on your path. That path is something that's very predetermined by you. Usually when I say that, people jump up and go, what about free will? Well, it fits very well. That path that you're walking, you've created it to have all of these experiences in your life. The free will piece is, how do you choose to experience your path? And when you start to recognize that you choose, there's no victims. You either turn away from your path or you stay on your path. You begin to look at what you want. There's always a boldness in it, but sometimes people get knocked down because you're not okay, the world around you says. And we believe that to some plus or minus extent. And so in my reality, I believed it. You know, people said you're not okay. Of course, everybody buys into it. But it's beginning to recognize that you can't be not okay. See, it's really an impossible thing to be not okay. You, this internal guidance system right here, is always okay. But what we do is we look at that external world, mom, dad, teacher, minister, and they say, this is what we know, and this is what the truth is, and this is how you do it. And then we follow that path, and we continue to look to our external world for our own validation and our truths. And that doesn't work. And so one of two things happens. Either you're very sensitive and you get pushed away and you say, I'm not okay and I don't fit and I'm not part of that. Or you shut it down in many ways and step into it and just boldly go, you know.
I think that's a good point you make because, I mean, even in my own life, I've been in media since I was a kid, basically, you know, my early 20s. And I was so shy, I would have gnawed off an arm before I would have raised my hand in class. And I was terrified to do this. I did it on a dare. And yet, if you can push through, like you say, it's not that the fear might not show itself, but if you can go there anyway, That's part of that journey of boldness, isn't it?
Very much so. And there's a particular piece where people lose quite often. There's an aspect, this inner guidance system, that you simply know, this is my truth. And many times, and you know when it's not your truth. And sometimes when you start to play the game of the external world, do money, do fame, do whatever it may be for you, we have a tendency to shut that internal guidance system down. It's like, kind of be quiet, I don't want to hear this. I'm on my path, I'm having success, or whatever. And we don't listen to our own truths. What this shift of consciousness is about is this internal guidance system is now becoming the compass that's driving you.
Absolutely. Now, I want to backtrack a little bit because we didn't go into it. You've had this extraordinary ability that is very rare. When you go into dreamtime, into the other dimensions at night, you actually have recall when you come back. Can you tell us what you're doing over there, and also how that information may have interfaced with putting you on your path, and also making some of the other earthly decisions you've made up to what you're doing now?
I can't do that. See, one of the things that happens every night, you go home. Everybody goes home every night. You lay the body down and you say, I'm going to sleep. You begin to disconnect the emotional, mental, spiritual body from the physical body, and you go home. And as the process of going home, you pass through a dream space, the astral plane, as people describe it. That's not home. That's just a place that you get to also play. But when you go home, it's like a fine flute or a single candle burning. It's so quiet and calm, and it's in that focused attention point that you remember yourself. You remember everything. And in that space, it's an amazing place. The great beings that people would attach to or have reference to, the Jesus, the Buddha, the Metatrons, the Archangel Michael, they're all there. They all sit at that table. And the other ones that are there are the yous, the you and me's. We sit at that table too, fully engaged in that process. The challenge is when you come back to the body, and when you separate it, there's the acupuncture points. See, this is very interesting because that's the docking points between the emotional and the mental body. And they're little magnetic vortexes, and they start to shut down, and you begin to go home. But when you come back and you reconnect into that body, this is the point where most people remember their dreams, is when you're coming back into the body. But you pass through that astral aspect, and that's not your dream. That's not where home is.
No.
That's just another place.
Yes.
But as soon as you re-enter that body space, where you left off yesterday, you pick right back up. So it's like going from that single flute of quietness, that single tone, back to the Star-Spangled Banner. All the noise of yesterday clicks right back in, and people forget. In my reality, part of my path is to remember that space. So I can come back and say, look, this is how this works. These are how dimensions work. This is how this pathway of the shift works. So the question, though, what do you do when you go there, is a very difficult one to answer because the reference points are different. And when you start playing in this 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional reality, it's a completely different realm of consciousness. So the bridging doesn't happen comfortably in language. And part of my wonderful journey is I have enough awareness of what happens there that I can bring into language and then speak to this shift of consciousness.
And so articulately as well. And just continuing on that dream theme for a moment, this is very much as I understand it, although I can rarely remember anything from that quiet time. And I've often felt that when you're passing back through that little astral thing, it's recognizable. It's a very close dimension to Earth. People that you know, I mean, you might be hooking up with individual energies or even individuals in astral form. And maybe even bringing back through some understanding of something that you're balancing within the being via the feelings that are played out in that little drama realm, more human realm.
The astral plane is a very interesting aspect. It is part of the 4th dimension. It is a place where things happen in a different time configuration. You know, you've had dreams where somebody from your past and somebody from your future, they're in the same dream, and it's
Right.
very consistent. You don't think much about that. So, but the astral plane is a very fascinating place, and it's going to be a troubling place for many as we go on this shift, because one of the things that happens in the astral plane is what you think is what you get as you think it. But also the astral plane is fascinating because depending on the life you live here, if you are a person that has lots of negative thoughts and lots of drama, when you go through into that astral plane, something very specific happens. You see, thoughts are electrical and emotions are magnetic. Very important piece of information. And so how you think and then how you bind your thoughts to emotions. I hate that over there, and you feel that anger or that resentment or whatever it means. Or I love this wonderful thing, and it's airy and it's fluid. If you ever notice thoughts that you think that are heavy, angry, resentful, troubling, worrying, they linger a very long time in your awareness, in many people's awareness.
That's hell.
That you are very accurate. That's hell. But it's hell in a moment where I'll point to. What happens is when you hold those thoughts here, and then you pass into your sleep space, those magnetic thoughts of resentment, let's say, that thought is such that it anchors to all the thoughts ever thought that have that same thought and emotional configuration. So you just magnetically get pulled to a scripting that is very much like what you think. So, but where it becomes hell is very accurate statement. And what you do is, in fact, they've done a study on people who are in prisons. And one of the common things they say is, the thing I'm most unhappy about in my life is when I go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep.
Oh, yeah, that's sad.
Reason it being is when I hold anger, resentment, murder, rape, incest, and then I go to sleep, guess what I experience? So what is that astral plane that's challenging is the heaviest, ugliest thoughts thought that have never been manifested by you. They sit in that level of the astral plane, the heavier part of the astral plane. And when you go to sleep, you begin to magnetically connect into all the other thoughts that others have thought. And that's a place that you
And
don't
that's not
wanna
just
be.
your thought frequency, it's everyone who's had similar frequency of thought.
Every thought.
Feeding that field.
Every
Yeah.
thought ever thought
Yeah.
like that. When it's manifested, you bring it into the third dimension and experience it. But where it has not been manifested, you begin to access that when you go to sleep. The challenge for the shift, we're a little bit out of context here, but the third dimension, which we can talk about, is going to dissolve. It's going away. It cannot continue to exist. But the fourth dimension isn't going to go away. So when you begin to play in that fourth dimensional space and you hold those really negative, ugly thoughts, you're going to begin to experience what you think as you think. And that's going to be a challenge for some. See, the flip side of it, though, is when you think about puppy dogs and little children and wonderful things and butterflies and beautiful Sedonas of the world, those are fleeting thoughts in a way because that magnetism is not dense. It's very fluid. And so you have a nice feeling with those thoughts, but you don't stay focused on them a long time. So when you begin to have that kind of construct and you go home at night, you pass into that area much more quickly than you do into those places which you don't identify with, those heavier thoughts. One of the things that I find in kind of this path that I've been asked to teach by the archangels, and what the archangels said is, we believe there's a pathway that has never been walked, never walked. And if it's followed, it will ascend, it'll create an ascension for those that walk it, a change, a dramatic change. But it will also create a light, a magnetic portal, if you would, that will draw all of the third dimension into the fifth dimension. And so that's kind of what Mastering Alchemy has been. But that pathway is very specifically laid out. And words become very important in the pathway. So if I say to you in third dimension the word ease, like, oh, take it easy, you have a sense of that. But when you get into the quietness that you're pointing to, and you say, I'd like to experience ease, very different experience energetically in the body. When you step into a fifth dimensional space, and you recognize that you're a citizen of the fifth dimension, and in that space you live in a reverence and a regalness. It's almost like a royalty with the most wonderful side of it, where this is who I am. That presence becomes very big. Then you begin to experience words like freedom in a way you cannot imagine in a third and fourth dimension. But you experience that word ease. It's full, it's distinct, it adds magnetics. It attracts words like graciousness. Graciousness is a fifth dimensional world. We can speak it in our language, but you have no idea what graciousness is as you begin to be that citizen in the fifth dimension, living in ease and beauty and well-being.
We've painted a beautiful portrait of what we can choose to move into, and it is our choice.
And where we are about to go.
And where we're about to go. And again, Mastering Alchemy is the work that you're offering the world at this time. People can check in with you or go to seminars, read books, whatnot. There's plenty online, free also.
Yes.
And DVDs, all of the above, so they can start working themselves through clearing, not just clearing, but actually choosing to go on this path into themselves, into their fifth dimensional self.
See,
very beautiful.
It's a pathway. It's not a truth.
Yeah.
It's not a philosophy. It's not anything. It simply says, if you can begin to change this I'm not okay into a sense of I'm capable, I'm certain, I'm present, you have a very different experience. It's not follow me or listen to, it's do this. Mm-hmm. Apply these tools and watch the world around you change.
I think you're a good person to do this. You have a great deal of humility and clarity in your being, and I really appreciate your taking the time to sit with me today.
Thank you.